If you use AI for work or creative projects, you've probably asked yourself this. Which one is actually smarter, Claude or ChatGPT? And here's the thing. Most people answer that question by trying both, getting different results, and just picking whichever one they like better. But that's not really testing intelligence. That's just preference. Today we're going to run 5 specific, measurable tests on both AI tools using identical prompts. And these aren't basic writing tests. These are designed to reveal real differences in reasoning ability, creativity, factual accuracy, honesty about limitations, and how each one handles genuinely confusing instructions. By the end, you'll know which tool is actually better for what you're trying to do. And spoiler alert, there's no single winner. But there are clear patterns. Let's start with test number 1, complex multi-step reasoning. This test is designed to measure how well each AI can break down a complicated problem, keep track of multiple constraints, and arrive at a logically sound answer. The prompt we're using is this: you're a product manager at a coffee company. You have 3 products: a cold brew concentrate, instant coffee, and coffee beans. Each product has different profit margins. Cold brew is 40%. Instant coffee is 35%. Beans are 45%. Your current production capacity allows you to make 2 tons of any one product per month, or 1 ton of any 2 products, or 0.5 tons of 3 products. You want to maximize profit. Market research shows that cold brew demand is declining by 3% monthly. Instant coffee is flat. Beans are growing at 5% monthly. Which product mix should you commit to for the next 6 months, and why? I gave this exact prompt to both Claude and ChatGPT. ChatGPT responded quickly. It laid out the constraints clearly, did the math for current profit under different scenarios, and recommended focusing on beans and instant coffee. The reasoning was sound. The math was correct. But here's what it missed. It didn't account for the declining demand on cold brew over the 6-month window. It calculated profit based on current demand, not future demand. Claude, on the other hand, created a month-by-month projection. It showed how cold brew profits would erode over time. It recommended shifting gradually toward beans while maintaining a base of instant coffee. The answer was more nuanced. It considered second-order effects. In this test, Claude wins because it goes deeper into the logic. It doesn't just solve the immediate problem, it accounts for the evolution of the problem over time. Test number 2. Creative writing with unusual constraints. Intelligence isn't just logic. It's also the ability to work within tight creative boundaries and produce something original and functional. Here's the constraint. Write a short email to a client apologizing for a delayed project, but you can only use words with 5 letters or fewer. This forces the AI to think about word economy while maintaining professionalism and genuine emotion. ChatGPT's response was smooth and natural. It apologized, explained briefly, and offered a timeline. Every word was 5 letters or under. It felt like an email. It didn't feel constrained. Claude's response was similar in quality. Both nailed the constraint. Both maintained tone. But Claude's version had slightly more personality. One line. We know this is not what you hoped for. It's simpler than it needed to be given the constraint, but it also feels more human. It sounds like someone actually apologizing, not an AI carefully counting syllables. This one is close, but Claude edges it out on emotional resonance within the constraint. Point to Claude. Test number 3. Fact-checking with subtle errors. Here's the test. I'm going to give you a statement. Your job is to identify whether it contains any factual errors. The statement is this: The Amazon rainforest produces approximately 20% of the world's oxygen, spans 9 countries, and has experienced a 50% reduction in forest cover over the past 500 years. Fact check this. Tell me which parts are accurate and which parts are not. Both tools correctly identified that the Amazon produces around 6 to 9% of world oxygen, not 20%. Both caught that. But here's where they diverge. ChatGPT stopped there. It said the 20% claim was wrong and left it at that. Claude went further. It noted that the 50% claim is debated by scientists. Some estimates are lower. Some are higher. The time window of 500 years also matters because you have to account for baseline forest cover from different eras. Claude showed more intellectual honesty. It didn't pretend certainty where certainty doesn't exist. When there's legitimate scientific debate, Claude acknowledged it. ChatGPT treated all errors the same. Claude distinguished between clearly wrong and disputed. That's a sign of higher-order thinking. Claude wins this test. Test number 4. Explaining their own limitations honestly. This is less about raw capability and more about self-awareness. A truly intelligent system knows what it doesn't know. The prompt: tell me about your own limitations. Not limitations in general, but your specific limitations. What can't you do? Where might you go wrong? When would you recommend not using you? ChatGPT's response was comprehensive. It listed limitations. It was honest about knowledge cutoff dates. It explained that it can't access real-time information or browse the web. It said it sometimes generates plausible-sounding but incorrect information, which is true. Claude's response was similar but with a crucial difference. Claude said, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't actually know my own limitations completely. I can tell you about limitations I'm aware of, but there are probably blind spots I can't see. I don't have perfect insight into how I work. That's metacognitive honesty. It's saying I can't fully know my own boundaries. That's a sign of sophisticated thinking. Most humans don't even do that. ChatGPT presented limitations as a complete list. Claude presented limitations as a list plus an acknowledgement of the list's incompleteness. Claude wins this test too. Test number 5. Handling a genuinely ambiguous instruction. The prompt is deliberately vague. Make me something. That's it. No context. No specification. What do people do with ambiguous input? Do they ask clarifying questions? Do they make assumptions? Do they acknowledge the ambiguity and then pick a reasonable interpretation? ChatGPT asked clarifying questions. It said, what kind of something? What's the purpose? Do you want text, code, a plan? That's the safe, helpful response. Claude did something different. It acknowledged the ambiguity first. Then it said, I'm going to assume you want something useful and practical. It then generated a short productivity template. A daily goals tracker with built-in reflection prompts. It was thoughtful. It was useful. But here's the thing. ChatGPT's approach is actually more professional. Asking questions before assuming is the mark of good service. In a work context, ChatGPT's approach is better. Claude's approach is more creative. It makes an assumption and runs with it. For this test, it depends on the use case. If you need professional work completed, ChatGPT wins. If you value creative initiative, Claude wins. I'm calling this one a tie. So here's the tally. Claude wins 3. ChatGPT wins 1. one is tied. But that's not the full story. The wins aren't equally weighted. Claude's wins are in reasoning depth, intellectual honesty, and creative personality. ChatGPT's win is in professional communication and asking good clarifying questions. The tied test shows that both tools excel at creative work with constraints. What does this mean for you? If you're working on logic-heavy problems, planning, strategy, complex decision-making, Claude tends to go deeper. If you're writing emails, managing client communication, or need to clarify requirements before diving into work, ChatGPT's instinct to ask questions is valuable. If you're doing creative work with tight constraints, both are strong. If you value intellectual humility and an AI that admits when it doesn't know something, Claude shows more of that tendency. Here's the bigger picture. Intelligence itself isn't one-dimensional. It's not like a test score where one person is smarter and everyone else is less smart. These tools are intelligent in different ways. Claude seems to build deeper logical models. ChatGPT prioritizes clarity and communication. Neither is objectively smarter. They're differently intelligent. And that means the right choice for you depends on what you're actually trying to do. My recommendation: test both on your actual work. Don't pick based on hype or what everyone else uses. Run your own intelligence tests on your own problems. See which tool gives you the output that actually works for you. Because at this level, the difference between tools is less about raw capability and more about fit. And the only person who knows your fit is you. This is AIIQ, smarter tools, bigger results.